live, and it is getting all set up right now. So let me head over to my channel. That way we can see the comments. Let's take a little look-see.
Ooh, I should do that.
Awesome, and yeah, you can hang out here. So Olivia, would you like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your YouTube channel?
Shit, dude. I'm just
going to put you on the spot right out of the gate. And
yeah,
I know. Like, I want to hear your life philosophy on the meaning of life and what mankind ought to aspire to.
What mankind ought to aspire to?
Yeah, that's what we're here. That's what this show is all about.
Chill the fuck out.
Chill out, you guys. You heard it here from Olivia.
Please just chill the fuck out.
The original Olivia, first of her name. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to share this out to a few places. Even though I forgot to create the beautiful thumbnail already, I'll have one uploaded afterwards. Sorry, guys. It's going to be an ugly thumbnail. Well, no, it'll have both of us. It's going to be beautiful. It'll be beautiful. It'll be beautiful because that was our face.
It'll be ugly. It'll probably be ugly.
It'll be mad ugly.
It'll be mad ugly, yeah. I'm Olivia. I'm probably not the first of my kind because I was born in 1993. And what'd you say? What is my YouTube channel about?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's called Talking About What Though, that was your idea.
I remember that reading. That was really fun. Yeah. I was like, what if you called it Talking About What Though?
Yeah. Because I kept saying, I'm like, but what would I would be talking about what though? Like, I think it's a question in it of itself because it's not a defined thing. You know, it's not like this is what this is about. Currently, right now, it's me fucking talking and sharing my opinion or philosophies or what I think, and people will resonate or they won't, you know? But it's very like, look, this is what I think, and fuck is every other word. And it's very straight to the point, you know?
As a Libra, when I listen to you fucking talk, it's like visiting a foreign culture. It's like, so I'm all over here and I'm like, well, sometimes, you know, we look at this and we see it in this way and you're just like, I don't fucking care about that, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, wow, that's so interesting. It's definitely, I love the Capricorn directness. It's just, you know, it's a way of speaking where you just say literally exactly what's on your mind in exactly the most unfiltered way possible. I think it's great.
Right.
I think the world needs more of that. I think we're too scared sometimes to be ourselves and to speak how we normally speak. But I think that the world is kind of waking up to that. And we actually find it really attractive in our culture all of a sudden. And we can see this reflected in politics and many other places, that there's something that there's a gravity to authenticity, a natural magnetism that comes with just speaking however it is that you normally speak. Maybe you don't speak that way normally, but you know, some of us do. And you know, we've got a lot of different ways that we talk. And you know, I think in the spiritual community, which is a topic that you talk about quite a bit. In fact, let me just really quickly, I'll go ahead and do a screen share of I'm going to do a screen share of your channel. And so you've got a few topics that you talk about here on spirituality, and essentially on your page here, you've had some, you know, some pretty cool videos that you've done where you go into a spiritual subject, but instead of using the same jargon, the same type of dialogue, you kind of speak about it in a very practical way, which we were just chatting about my my Capricorn stellium and how that's something that, you know, I find really refreshing. I think it's important for us to speak as we are, to speak how we normally would, and to apply it to life. Yeah,
that was something. I'm pretty sure you and I talked about this in the very beginning, but that was something that I was going over in my mind, like, how am I going to filter myself, or how do I edit the way that I speak? And I was a little apprehensive about it, but it just became, oh my god, a bumblebee just landed on my laptop.
Oh my god.
It became, dude, like, I can't though. Like, I can't fucking edit how I'm gonna present this. You know, it's gonna be however it's coming out in my mind. I'm just gonna fucking say it like whatever, and smoke my cigarettes and say fuck every other word, and that is authentically me. And like I said before, people, I agree with you that people, I think now more than ever, are drawn more to authenticity than ever before. And like I said, people are either gonna resonate or they're not. You know, like it's definitely not that whole love and light fluff shit. And I'm not dogging on that at all. Like I do watch shit where that is the vibe, for lack of a better word. I'm not dogging on it like at all. I'm down with it. I'm all for it, but it's not me personally. But I've always been more drawn to, naturally, people like myself who are going to speak very candidly and not edit what they say and shit like that.
Yeah. And so you feel that there's like a purist love and light movement that in that particular sect that they kind of gift wrap a lot of their phrases or wording and sort of, Yeah. That's something I've observed too. There's sometimes it's the rejection of, you know, I hear some poor people try and talk to them and it's like they interrupt every other word from the person and be like, no, you can't say that because that's negative. No, you can't say that because it's negative. The thing is, us being able to speak freely is so important to overcome negativity. The recognition of genuine negativity is something that helps us find true positivity, not something that we can dogmatically force ourselves to just like understand all this. We can't just make ourselves be positive. We have to actually find a real journey to positivity, you know?
When I made a video about that a couple months ago, where it's like people being all about, oh, the love and light, and you must be positive. And it's like, but you can't though, you know, that whole stigma of, you know, when you're feeling negative and shit, just think positivity, just think positive thoughts, you know, like that's how you do it. And it's just like, dude, like
specific impression. Is there a person that you're mimicking?
But you know, going up the emotional scale, like you can't do that though. You know what I mean? If you're down there feeling like fucking shit, you can't be all high vibe, love and light, positive. You can't. You have to go up the emotional scale. And you know, like if you're depressed, what feels better than depression? Anger. You know, like going up that scale like that, you can't go from here to there. You literally can't. Like law of attraction ain't gonna let you anyway. Yeah. So I think not enough people talk about that right there. Or the reverse side of that, people talk about the shadow side of things and how it is important to feel those kinds of emotions, to go deep like that and to actually feel that. But then they don't talk about how to go up from there. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like once you're down comment there, right now, House of Judea, embrace and explore the shadow. The denial of it is inauthentic. Boom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. You have to. You have to. But not enough people talk about, again, the emotional scale and going up from there. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I felt my shadow. I'm going through all this shit. I'm down here, like, now what? Again, people will say, oh, go back up to the high vibe and positivity and shit. And it's like, but I can't though, you know?
Yeah, that's the power and curse of our conscious mind. You know, like if I'm angry and I'm trying to deny I'm angry and I try and figure out why not to be angry, I can do that all day and stay in anger forever. But if I genuinely let myself feel the anger, then it's pretty quick that I'll be able to discover, you know, realistically, the anger really is just hurt. Because we don't really get angry at anything. We just get hurt, or we have the potential of getting hurt when we feel that. If someone insults us, it's not because that insult like magically summons anger in us. It's because we genuinely have an insecurity in that area or in some other area. And so we're trying to mask it. And if we're angry, then it almost seems like more tough and like there's, you know, more of almost like an honor to being angry than it is to be hurt. But the reality is you just, you know, you got to let yourself be hurt. You got to.
True.
Exactly, the jade stone. Yeah, you've got to take a small step at a single step at a time in that direction. Yeah, no, that's what it is. That's 100% what it is.
Right. Yeah, when you're down there feeling like whatever particular emotion that it is, the second that you let up on that, even subconsciously, the second that you do, your vibration is naturally going to elevate one step above. And you may, like, generally, you may still feel like shit, yeah, but not as shitty. But going up that one step above, you're on your way up, and it's going to become easier to go up the more that you spend time at each level and slowly let yourself let go of that level slowly but surely. That's how you rise up,
right,
and get back up to the top.
Anger is just repressed pain that hasn't been dealt with most of the time. Yep, exactly. Oh, and then Jade Stone says 222. It is, yeah. It's everything kind of feels like it's flowing in synchronicities right now. It's pretty awesome.
522. I know it's only like 222 at your house, but it's 522 at mine, and I'm sitting here like, how the fuck is it already 5:30?
I know.
Wild.
Somebody's been slacking, kept putting off the live today, you know. Kept changing the time on me, and I just dealt with it. Or no, I'm just joking. No, I changed the time on her like 3 or 4 times.
No, it's
just
so,
like, can we do it like one extra hour later? Just one extra 30 minutes later? Yeah.
It was so perfect though, because I needed more time too, and I kept thinking like, I need to ask him if we can push this back. So
nope,
literally
I did it for you.
Every single time you said that, I was just like, yes, that's perfect. Yes, that's perfect.
I know, isn't it funny? There's that comedian John Mulaney who has this skit about how canceling plans or pushing things off is like heroin. Like the amount of good that you feel when someone is like, hey, can we do this later? Or like cancel it, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, fine. Like, awesome. All right. And you're like, you know,
yes, I don't have to do this right now.
Right. You almost feel like you're supposed to act bummed out, but in reality, you're like, this is great. I'm so happy. Thank God we're not hanging out. And you're like, oh, am I a bad person? It's like, no. Sometimes we just make commitments at the time and it feels right at the time. And then later we don't feel that at all. And that's just the truth.
You know what? Going off of what you just said, it made me think about how I referenced this in the video that I just made, where like all last week I felt like such shit and had like no energy to talk to anybody. Like all of my friends, like I don't think I talked to you until like maybe the end of the week, like maybe, I don't even fucking know. But I've got like multiple friends that I said, yeah, I think I'll call you and we can chat, and I just haven't done it. And I had to be like just straight up and honest with people and say, look, I have no energy. Like there is a huge presence of, for lack of a better word, about me that I can't hold a conversation right now. I can't talk about work. I can't talk about, because a lot of these conversations are going to be, pertaining to what the fuck is going on in the world right now. And that is heavy in it of itself, regardless of whatever you are going through as an individual. But I feel a lot better now, and I do need to fucking call people, because I feel a little bad, like a little bit bad about it, because I'm like, I hope I'm not coming off like a bad friend, or I hope I'm not being a bad friend. But
no, you're a Capricorn. We just entered your 4th house. So that means that essentially you're in this phase right now where you're like nesting. You're almost like reconnecting, sudden introspection, being a homebody. These are all things that are very classic. Right. Like just a week ago, we were in your 3rd house where it was all like high energy communication, really quick, sudden making plans, thinking of things, figuring things out. And so there's been this sudden drop in energy, but that's natural for you. Yeah, it's natural, and it's going to build up. And then we enter your 5th house in Taurus season, and it's going to be all kinds of fun and games. It's going to be an explosion.
I'm excited.
Yeah, get ready for that.
I'm excited. I'm a Taurus moon.
The Jade Stone. I like the analogy of the homeless man from I have nothing to I am abundant and have everything. A step above, I'm alive and breathing air. I have a blanket, and now he's moving in the direction. Yeah, no, I 100%. For me, the best times of my life have always been right after a lot of tragedy, and then I hit rock bottom, and then I suddenly get back into alignment because I got nothing to lose, essentially. There's nothing else to do but the right thing. And so you get yourself in alignment with the universe, with God, whatever term you prefer. And once you're in that alignment phase, you then just produce so much joy. And from that joy, then you start to bring in the physical and literal abundance in all these different ways. For me, for instance, in my, in September, when I really hit rock bottom, September 2019, after just a series of all kinds of different issues that I won't go into, I got back into alignment all of a sudden, and I brought in all of this, all this positive energy, all of this abundance all of a sudden, because I was happy, because everything was terrible, but at least I'm now in the right direction again. Finally, I'm finally back on my mission. And directly after that, I went on a road trip to Missouri, and then I hung out with my friend for a week. And when I was staying with him, I left my tarot cards there, and he just mailed them to me today. And so, it was sort of this magical return moment that I just felt. It was a wonderful time with him. And then, of course, I road tripped all the way to Southern California. And now I'm living here, and I have since October 5th. But it's, everything's just been freaking awesome since then. It's been, still self-discovery, still problems come up, but I'm in alignment, and things are always going to be okay. Like, things always will, for as long as I'm deciding that I'm going to stay in here no matter what. And I think one thing, and I would love to hear your take on this, is that a lot of times we think we have to double down on what it is we're feeling. That, for instance, if this is a good time in your life, then you should almost reject bad news, bad vibes, if you will, bad energies. But if it's a bad time in your life, then of course we have the natural propensity to reject good stuff and to push it away, because, if we do that, then we feel like it will invalidate the pain that we're in. So we almost we try and double down on a pure direction. The reality is, to me, that true happiness is when sad things can still happen and you're also still happy, even though you're also sad. You can be both. You can be in a positive and difficult place in your life at the same time. And I think that sometimes we forget these can coexist. What do you think about that?
I agree with you. For sure. It's an ebb and a flow.
Yeah.
Obviously. And I think there's momentum behind it when a lot of shit is happening, or you're going through a lot of negative times. That's where your energy is. That's where you're looking to. That's what the law of attraction is going to bring you. And then it is kind of like, if something positive happens, you're not going to be so apt to be like, oh yay, because you're over here focused on what's not going right. And I can see where that it might not click with you. The momentum's kind of going over here. So I feel you on that. I definitely try to, I consciously try to remind myself that everything is always working out for me. Yeah. Even when it looks like it's not, I keep telling myself, even if something fucking shitty is going on, and even yesterday, I got news that I did not want to get, and it's definitely a perceived negative, but I'm like, you know what? This is okay. There's something bigger being played into this right now, and we just got to relax and breathe through it and know that we're on the right track and that everything is okay.
Yeah. And no matter how much older we get, no matter how much wiser we get, in the moment, it will always feel like these bad things are catastrophes. But, in retrospect, if we can just allow ourselves to just give ourselves that retrospect ahead of time and just think about how we'll probably feel about it. I think back to my late teens, all the millions of breakups where each and every time I was like, this is devastating. Like, I've lost the love of my life. Like, this will never come back to me. And then freaking a week or two later, whatever. So to me, it's at the time, those felt very devastating and so serious.
Yeah.
Nothing would ever be the same again. But in reality, no, it was fine. And I'm so glad that I'm not with all of them, at the same time. That would be a really busy schedule. But I'm not with anyone, not because they're even bad people or anything like that. It's not trashing them. It's just a matter of that clearly wasn't the right relationship for me. At the time, I was dead certain of it. So whenever we're feeling dead certain of something right now, no matter how much older we are, in our 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever, well, deep down, we all know that we're not that certain of it. We want to be certain, because if we tell ourselves we're certain of it, that means we're safe and that things are figured out. But reality is everything keeps changing and always will. The world will always change. There's a level of chaos to all of life, and we have to accept that. Sooner we accept that, sooner we can be free. It sounds like it'd be more stressful to accept that. No, actually, once you accept the things you can't control, you just kind of are over a lot of stuff, and it doesn't have to impact you so hard every time. Divine order, universe is always conspiring for my highest good, seen and unseen. House of Judea. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that reminds me of what we talked about a couple weeks ago, with the whole twin flame journey.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like what I've been going through, and honestly what I think more people will go through, where here's a core belief that I've held for how many fucking years now that is shifting a little bit.
Yeah.
And how we talked about that can be utterly fucking painful, because it's also a sense of security at the same time. And when a core belief is threatened, your sense of security is threatened, you know?
Yeah. That's true. It's true. And it's funny that you bring up twin flames, because so I did episode 1 of Jax's weekly dogma on High Vibe TV, and it's posted on my YouTube channel as well. Is meat murder was episode 1. The meat is murder argument in the spiritual community. Episode 2, I'm going to be looking at religious reincarnation, so like different topics that we kind of like look at in religion as silly or like dogmatic, but then we've kind of recreated some of them here in the spiritual community. We've remade them and just used different terms. And then episode 3 is going to be on twin flames. And so I'm not going to get super into it, but definitely going to be talking about all the points of view out there about twin flames. And specifically, I'm going to focus on the historical origins of the word soulmate in the, in the mid 1900s, and then sort of talk about, twin flame, how that term evolved, and all the different, terms that are out there now. There's new terms being created all the time, and they're all being treated as matter of fact. And I think it's time we have an open discussion about it. And that's sort of the point of the show, is having
that needs to happen. That so needs to fucking happen.
Yeah.
I feel like your show should be otherwise known as unpopular opinions.
Essentially, I've got like a million things to say that for me as a Libra, we Libras carry the philosophy that, you don't start fights, but you're also not allowed to back down from them. So in my head, I've always been prepared for all these different things that could come up, conversations about different dogmas that are out there in the spiritual community. But what I realized is, it's not starting a fight to speak your truth about it before someone asks you, because no one even knows to ask me. No one even knows to bring that up or to ask my opinion on it. No one even thinks of it. A lot of people just assume that I have the exact same belief as them, or the general New Age spiritual movement. And actually, my views veer off to the left or right to a lot of different views that are out there right now.
Yeah.
I am not a purist Eastern philosopher, in the sense that, like, there are a lot of spiritual concepts out there right now that come from the Eastern philosophy, and they're sort of like a purified form of it. I am way like this balance of East and West. I balance the Western ideologies and the Eastern ideologies, and I believe they belong together in balance. And that's sort of like the yin and yang, like things coming together. And that either one in its pure form is actually kind of dangerous and culty, and like, like very familiar with, history. There's cults and dictatorships that essentially pop up from a purified belief in anything. Like a purified belief in anything with no exceptions, no counterbalance, is always something that it's inevitable. It has to become dogma. So
for all this kind of shit that we're into, my boyfriend has asked me, and he's not into any of this shit, but he's said to me, multiple times before, how is all the shit that you're into, how is this different than religion? Because the spiritual New Age is all about, we're not religion, we're spirituality. But like you said, there's so many things that are kind of like, it's like a new formed religion almost, to where he's like, what's the fucking difference between that? And I'm like, and back in the day when I would get triggered by stuff like that, I'd be like, here's some kind of bullshit fucking answer to, justify. This is not like religion because we're trying to not be that way, but today it's just all like, I see your argument completely. I see your argument fucking completely, and I mean, I agree with you now.
So to his point, I would suggest, if he hasn't already, to check out the Hulu show called The Path. It did get canceled after season 2, so you'll have to just understand it was a canceled show, but it was a very good show, and it actually has a hyper stratified vision in about 5 years from now or so of what it would look like if light workers essentially built a religion / cult, what that would look like, how that would feel. And actually, it's eerily familiar with stuff that we see posted on Facebook every day. However, in counter to his point, I can't give anyone else's answer to that. I know mine, though. For me, this is a personal exploration. For me, this is an exploration of something that I believe is inherent to human beings, that rather than it being the psychic gift or even intuition or any of these other words that we kind of try and use as explanations, that there's essentially an extra layer of understanding that human beings have access to, that we can choose to have access to, and it's what's responsible for tons of the spiritual experiences, which to me, I've had genuine spiritual experiences. I know other people who have. That's the true explanation, that it's something that is inherent to the human species, and that what we do, and the big problem is that the moment we have this new data that comes in, this spiritual experience, we try to explain it. And now that's not bad, because of course we should want to explain things. However, we rush to conclusions and we say, well, I have this vision when I was looking into the fire. Therefore, there's like a god there's a fire god, and this fire god is probably named this, and he probably created everything. And so we go into this whole journey. The thing is, it started with a genuine vision, a real connection psychically with the fire, with the world, whatever. But what we do as human beings is we're so desperate for control and safety to know exactly what's going on in this big mysterious world. So we just kind of fudge the numbers. We just sort of push in all kinds of stuff. I always say, like, for every seed of truth, there's like a forest of bullshit that grows up around it. And to me, it's time that we start kind of chopping down some of those forests and extracting the seeds of truth, and start gathering up the things that we do all universally connect on, and then see what that looks like when applied. Like, try some of that out. But it's like, I just see it every single day. I see it on Instagram. I see it on Facebook, all these different things that are said so matter-of-factly. I've talked before about when I came up with the name Jax Atlantis, I didn't realize it would be a spiritual Rorschach test. My name, I did not know that. It's so funny. I literally have had so many people just come up to me, like in my messenger or when we're in a reading, and they'll matter-of-factly explain to me where Atlantis is and where it came from. Now, the funny thing is, you might already be on track with where this is going. They're all different. All of these people who are stating this as a fact have these totally different stories, and that's fine. I don't possess evidence that I know where Atlantis is. And in fact, I'm never going to talk about what my particular opinion on Atlantis is because of this, because it's freaking awesome to have this sort of, it just compels something out of people. Some people say the Anunnaki created Atlantis. Other people say that women are natively from Atlantis, and that men are from Mars, and men came down and then they came together and battled, that's how human beings were created. There's the belief that it's in the eye of the Sahara, that Atlantis is in Northern Ireland, that Atlantis is in around High Brazil, that Atlantis is in the Bermuda Triangle. We have so many people matter-of-factly stating where it was, what it was like, who created it, when it happened, which dimension the beings came from. And all those beliefs are fine. We can believe whatever we want, but stated as a fact without evidence, come on. You can state that you believe it, but don't state it as a fact, because it's not a fact. And that's what my name has kind of turned into, and I sort of love it. I did not see that coming when I put this out there for the first time, but it's pretty awesome. And I think that that's one of the things that the weekly dogma show I'm doing is kind of all about, is about being able to have discussions about these things and kind of toning some stuff down a bit, which actually might make us wiser, not stupider. To admit we don't know for sure what's going on is, I think, a symbol of us being in the right direction at the very least.
I mean, I hope your show doesn't make us stupider.
I hope so too.
Yeah,
I want to make people smarter.
I
don't wanna
know.
make anyone stupid.
I felt smarter after watching your video last
Did
night.
you?
Actually, I'm actually not kidding about that. I'm not being sarcastic or anything. No, I thought the points that you presented, because I have my own opinions about is meat murder, and a flat answer in my own opinion is no. But the different tenets that you talked about were things that I had not thought about, even though I have my own opinion, and I'm open to hearing all kinds of
Are you open to talking about that here? Like,
yeah, because I was actually curious to see if you would have talked about what my opinion happens to be.
yeah.
But I gotta think about this for a second
sure.
of why I think meat is not murder. And I mentioned this to you the other day when we were talking about it, how kind of like the point that you did bring up in your video was how a lot of people think in order to be spiritual or whatever, you have to be vegan or you have to not eat meat, and how a lot of people do feel ashamed that they don't hold that opinion. And I mentioned how, oh, there's a bug. I mentioned how I have felt that way before, that I thought if you are vegan, then that means you are the spiritual person, and taking it into extremes like you're better than other people. And that's so negative to fucking think, but people really do think that way. But the way that I look at it is that, so I'm trying to think of the best way to articulate this. The world is as it is. We have these systems set up where we eat animals. Way back in the Native American, blah, 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 they ate animals, right? It's a thing that's been a thing for a really long time, right? I believe that before we are incarnated into these bodies, our inner beings or higher selves, whatever you want to fucking call it, your inner being knows ahead of time, coming into this body, what life is gonna bare bones be about, right? So if you believe that all living creatures, everybody, all living things have inner beings, then let's take a cow, for example. That cow's inner being knew what it was going into ahead of time. It knew this is what its life is going to be. You're going to be bred and raised for the consumption of your meat, right? And then you're going to die. Right. So if everybody has a purpose, if your inner being has a purpose of coming into this world and what your purpose is, then cows have that too. So if they know ahead of time that what they're going to be used for is meat, then that is their purpose, and they know that ahead of time. They know that as they're coming into this world, and they are serving their purpose. And it's kind of like, well, what if you walked up and you threw a wrench in the whole machine and shut down the slaughterhouse and shit? Well, for all those cows in there, you just threw off their life purpose. Like they planned ahead of time to come in and
that's interesting. Yeah,
for this function, and they've served their purpose. That's really truly how I look at that. It's they know, if seriously, if you want to look at all life is sacred, which I do agree, but I believe that everybody does have their purpose. And if that's what that cow's purpose was to be born and used specifically for this and then die, then it served its purpose. And I'm just saying its inner being knew that ahead of time and goes back into the afterlife and then comes back in as whatever the fuck it's going to come back in as, whatever.
So that's interesting. So you're coming from the theoretical point of view of specifically predetermined reincarnation being I've never heard that argument for it. That's really cool. I didn't even think to ever take that. In fact, when I did the show, I had specifically made sure to create it and craft it in a way where, of course, I brought up the spiritual implications of saying that it's conscious or unconscious or whatever. but that it would be applicable to anyone, even if you're an atheist, vegan, Christian, vegan, any kind of vegan.
Right.
Because of that. But I love that concept. That's so interesting, because I'm still on the
Right.
fence personally about the predetermination. To what degree do we choose what we do during our life? But
Right.
I'm definitely open to that. That's it. It's definitely a very, very interesting idea. Yeah, that's awesome.
It
That's
you know where
really
I
cool.
got that from? You know where I got that from actually was Abraham Hicks.
Okay.
I learned that perspective from listening to Abraham, because that, I mean, you can Google or YouTube that particular topic with Abraham, and there's material out there, and that is what Abraham has said about it. You know, because they were talking about people who, you know, who look at the whole slaughter of animals and shit as this is so wrong and something that we must stop. And Abraham is like, you know, LOL, no, it's fine. You know, like obviously a lot more, it's not that simple, but that was the gist of it. It's your inner being knows, and this again, this is if you hold this kind of philosophy that I'm talking about. A lot of people don't follow what I'm saying. This is what I believe. This is what I got from Abraham. This is what resonates for me.
Right.
So if you believe, you know, what I'm saying, I personally believe that ahead of time, our inner beings know, your inner being knows what body you're being born into, who your parents are, where you're going to be born at, like shit like that. And if you want to look at, of all living creatures have that as well, they know what the fuck they're going to be born into. They know what's going to happen. If all the cow's life is to be born, slaughtered, and die, quote unquote, again, then that's what that cow's purpose was, and it served its purpose. You know? And I try to remind myself of that when I am eating meat, you know, having that gratitude for that. It's your purpose was to give me this meat that I'm eating, and I'm grateful for that, you know?
Well, I think that's cool. I think that's an awesome position. And I think before we go, because I didn't realize how much time had passed already, we actually we killed it. We've been here for almost 50 minutes now. 40 minutes, something like that. But I'm super pumped for it. Yeah, so what I'm going to do right before we go is I'm going to do a quick collective reading and just draw a few cards from this deck that I haven't had in my hands since September, but I've had this.
Oh yeah, I know you're excited about that.
So I'm super pumped to draw a few cards for you guys. Let's see what the collective wants to say for us today. Let's see what energy is going to be affecting us. I'm going to branch it out by the types of signs. Here we go. Oh, nice. Oh, God, this is a good read for today. Okay, so for air signs, Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius, we have King of Coins. So look at that. We got to make sure our system and structure of abundance is created, or that we're working to create it. King of Coins figures stuff out for the long haul. He figures stuff out for the next generation. And so that's the energy we want to apply right now. And so it doesn't just involve money and coins in a literal sense, but also the true investments in our friends, you know, showing them some love right now, and showing that, you know, if we've been not even a bad friend, but if we've been a friend who just kind of has been all about ourselves recently, you know, maybe that's okay for the time, but maybe it's time to show up for some people and give some support. Maybe it's time to go out of your way to do something charitable or generous today, or if it's down to just getting your nose to the grindstone and getting your, you know, just getting immediately to work. And fire signs, you guys have Knight of Swords. You guys also working on a lot of different things right now, especially in the intellectual realms, but just don't rush things right now. Don't rush things. You are smart. You do know what you're talking about. You know to go in that path in general, absolutely. But if you rush it, you can make careless mistakes that you wouldn't have necessarily needed to make. And you'll make them on, you know, and you'll have to pay the price for that. Knight of Swords is always kind of like an arrogant genius, because he is a genius. He is right to march forward, but the arrogance is just that hubris is what kills him. So don't rush into battle. Move with, you know, move with strategy. Water signs, you guys have the Death card. So it's time to basically shed your skin and be reborn today. You know, it's time to die and be reborn in a lot of different ways. It's the Scorpio energy. Yeah, it's time to die and be reborn. Psychically, it's time to die and be reborn emotionally. It's time to allow yourself, you know, whether it's like crying, whether it's a burst of anger, whatever it is, release today. Release, release, release. And if you release, then you will be freed from it in a pretty magical way where you'll feel this ecstasy afterwards. But for now, just freaking let it out. Let whatever it is out, let that go. As far as the earth signs, we got Capricorn over here, 10 of Cups. So pretty hilarious. We're doing it right now, blending and melding with other people, teamwork, communication, community, coming together. And so you're in this fourth house place in your life right now where you're, you know, finding this stability and this quietude and this nesting energy. But at the same time, you're still having this conversation with me, and I'm sure you're going to be creating all kinds of other videos that you put out to the collective. And guys, make sure you subscribe to her channel so that you can check it out every time. It's Talking About What Though is her channel, and you know, it's really awesome. So yeah, 10 of Cups is telling the earth signs though that through love, communication, and the leadership of empathy, that's going to be your way to be extremely successful today. So definitely go do that. So thank you guys for tuning into our live chat today. I will be here later today talking to a guy, Andrew Astral. We'll be doing an interview as well. And then tomorrow is Sunday, which means I'll be live with the Divine Trine, with Starry Ari and the Peace Dealer. And then on Monday, I'm going to be live with Haley Lynn, the Lucid Mystic again. We're going to be doing another quantum poetry creation here live. So it'll be super awesome. So
I like
thank you guys
those.
for
I
tuning
like
in.
those videos.
I love them too.
That you do with her.
Yeah, no, I love, she's a Leo. And so we have such a fun kind of back and forth
Yeah.
that we have, you know, every time. It's awesome. But I
Yeah.
love you guys so much. You guys have an awesome rest of your day and stay safe out there.